Hi everyone, it's Mike here. So today I'm working in a double page spread in my large Dilutions creative journal. So this is a completely clean white, well, off-white-ish virginal page, if you like. There's nothing on here at all. There's no colour mop-ups, nothing. So before I get started, I want to put a base coat down of clear gesso. So I'm going to do it right the way over the entire double page spread, because this is going to be one of those pages that I want to spread a lot of colour on. So my first thought was I was going to use my Dilution sprays, something which I haven't used for a long time. And then I got the Dilution sprays out, and I thought, do you know what? This is going to be even too messy for me today. I'm not in that kind of a messy mood. I'm in a messy mood, but not that messy. I have to really be in the mood to use the Dilution sprays. It's not necessarily the actual resource themselves, it's just the cleanup afterwards. I find just a little bit too daunting because they do go everywhere and you can't easily clean them up with a wet rag. Because of what they are, they do tend to get in everywhere you go. So anyway, so I'm just going to quickly, he says, go over the entire double page with clear gesso just to give it a little bit of a ground, so that I can then manoeuvre some paints all over for my background. So let's get that dry and then I'll be back. Okay, so my double page spread is now dry. I've got a few marks on it where my rings caught and made like a greyish mark, but that's not too much of a problem. I'm going to kind of put down a colour wash on this double page spread to start off with, and for that I'm going to use like a darky olivey green from Dina Wakley Media. So I'm just going to put a little bit on a little polypropylene cover that I have. I'll grab a little spritz of water and I'm going to make it, just to add some water to it, just to water it down a little. And then once I've actually got it free flowing onto the polyprop, I'm just going to give it a real quick kind of wash over. And this is going to be a kind of non-planned kind of page that I want to do today. I kind of have a little bit of an idea of what I want to achieve in my head, but not anything specific. I kind of got an aesthetic in my head, but not a real fully formed idea of a full page. So it's going to be a case of, let's just see what happens, let's just see how it turns out. And I'm just adding that paint in quite loose, just covering, getting the background down, but not being too kind of literal, if you like. That's how we're going to start off. I'm going to be doing a little bit of kind of homemade stenciling in a second, just adding some of those colour washes in. Okay, now before that dries, which will dry pretty quickly because it's kind of warm in here today, I've got some of the Ancient, which is kind of like a metallic. I'm just going to add a real small amount of that into the background tone. I'm not even bothering to clean my brush. I just want some tones of that kind of darker colour. Just hiding in that background. Of course, because it's metallic, you'll also get a little bit of that sheen showing through as well. think that will do for that, just for this moment in time. So I'll get that dry. Okay, so that's dry. I've cut out, using my Big Shot and some Sizzix Bigs dies from Tim Holtz. I've got tattered leaves, so these are those, and this is the weathered clock. So I pre-did these a bit earlier, and I'll just show you the footage of me doing that now. So literally all I did was to get a piece of white cardstock, cut it down the middle, and then I've just run these through just to create these kind of masks and stencils that I'm going to be using for this page. And I may end up using the cutout bits, I may not. Predominantly I want to use these as kind of like stencils and masks for this project. So I'll just put those to one side. So I'm going to use this one to start off with. So I want this one as my kind of focal point on this side of the page. And I've got it so the 12 is kind of at the top. And then I'm going to just bring in a cosmetic sponge, and then I'm going to build up around this. Let me just see if I've got another little polypropylene mat that I can use. It's a bit of a paint mat. There we go. So I'll just move this to one side. I'll just drop that down there. And then I'm going to be using, I've got cheddar. So I'm going to put a blob of cheddar down there. Again, Dina Wakley Media Paint, acrylic. And I'm also going to bring back in that olive with a little bit of that. And then just a small amount of the Sedona, which is kind of like a clay terracotta-y red, but maybe a little bit more red than clay, if you like. Looking at all the Dina Wakley paints, I don't think actually that she does do a brown. I think I've got all of the paints, but no brown. How weird is that? So I'm just wondering whether or not I've actually got a brown that I can use from Tim Holtz. Let me just have a quick rake in my drawer. I might have vintage photo. Walnut stain. I've got a walnut stain, but no vintage photo or brushed corduroy. Possibly no, that's gathered twigs, I think. Rusty hinge. Have I got rusty hinge? I have got rusty hinge. So let's keep those on hand just in case. What's that one? That's another rusty. I've got two rusty hinges. Well, hey. Okay, let's put those back. So I'm going to use this as a kind of stencil, but I'm not going to do it as a real kind of exact one. I'm actually just going to go around and build up some colour in the background, and obviously where the piece of cardstock is, there's going to be that kind of negative space behind it, and I'm just blending out the colours just by dabbing. And as I go around, I'm going to start mixing the colours up a little bit, so they're darker in some areas, lighter in others. Just start working it around the page, not pressing really hard. I'm only pressing lightly and kind of mixing the paint on the page as it's going down. Real light strokes. Now where I've got lines, look, I'll just dab those out by twisting and turning the sponge. Just pat down, carry the colour through, and just blend to nothing. You can go as heavy or as light, and then I'm going to grab some of that green and go back in some of the other areas. Because we're using kind of warm tones and kind of autumnal colours, I'm hoping that these will all kind of mix and blend together. I don't particularly want them to create mud, but you know, brown in this instance isn't a bad thing. A few greeny kind of tinges. Let's get some of that red, mix it with the orange, and then bring it across here. Start feeding some of that colour in. Grab some of that green. Some of that green up here. Because we've already got that kind of olive colour in the background, it kind of brings the back to the front. Okay, so let's lift that off now. So we've got that real kind of nice masked area, so I can bring some of that colour down. Just pick it up off the mat. It doesn't matter too much how it goes, so I'll bring it across to the left, blend it maybe down a little tad, just use up the paint on the sponge. I'm not replenishing much. So we've just got some nice darker and warmer tones coming through the page. So I've brought it from across here. Let's pick up what's left on the mat. And then just blend that away. Just like that. So we've got a nice kind of darkish area and it comes across the page. Just nice light kind of tapping motions to blend that into the background. Just like that. Grab it a little bit more and just kind of diffuse some of those little areas. Okay, so I've got that. Want that to be nice and dry now. So I'll get that with the heat gun and I'll be back in a few seconds. Okay, next up I've brought in that kind of homemade stencil that we got with the Tim Holtz die. So I'm just going to lightly just tack down a piece of card just with a little bit of masking tape. It's just really to hold it into position. And I'm going to bring back that cheddar, add a little bit onto the mat, and then this time I'm going to go with a little more of the Sedona, and then I want to add a little bit more of a lighter colour in there, so I'm going to add a little bit of the lime, but not too much, and I'm going to add that last. So I'm going to take another cosmetic sponge this time. I'm going to pick up the orange and then just quickly go around, give a decent kind of base down on there first. And then again, this time start picking up a little bit of that red. I managed to get a little bit of the green in there, but that's fine. And start bringing that other colour in. And then this time I'll pick up a little bit more of that green. Bit more of the red, grab some more of that orange, give it a mix. I'm just going to go around kind of like the outsides building up that colour. At this point I'm also going to bring in then that rusty hinge, if I can get it to and I can just dab some of that in areas too. I learned a long time not to squeeze too hard with these foam applicators because you end up popping the lids off. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that green on the edge as well. I'm not bothered about cross-contamination because it will go. Okay, then let's try this walnut stain. I'm just lightly going to go around the edges. And then grab the sponge again and then just diffuse that out. Okay, so let's lift off a little stencil. We've got some nice kind of autumn leaves there, and of course I can twist that around and drop it down over here and repeat the process again. This time choosing whatever colours you want to. So I'll add a little bit in there first. And then bring in the sponge and start to soften it all out. And then just kind of build up your colours and just go around and keep on adding and adding and adding. Pick up some of those lighter colours or darker colours or ready tones and just kind of mottle them all in. Autumn being one of those times of year where you can pretty much get away with anything that's kind of warm colour. And because the leaves tend to go all kinds of different colours in different areas, there's no kind of real right or wrong when creating an autumn leaf shape. Just try and blend out as best you can. Try not to take too much of the paint off. And I'm going to reposition down here and do again. So again, let's try with some of the darker colours just at the bottom. I'm going to cover that clock up just a tad. Pick up that other sponge this time. See what other colours we can get in there. Start off with a darker colour if you're not too sure, and then you can always add lighter tones on top. Really go to town with the colours if you wanted to. Just grab some of that green again. Go down one side and then pick up the red. some real beautiful colour combinations. Love it. And of course, if you wanted to, you can then start building up, you know, the leaves in other areas around the page. So I'm going to go ahead now and just keep on adding some more. I'm not necessarily going to add them like over the top like I've done there. I'm going to do some that are probably going to be blending behind, and then just grab the sponge and then just work that paint in. See if we can get a little bit of a darker shade just in there. And then pick up some of those reds, maybe a little bit more. Just go over the top. Love it. And maybe a little more down here. So I'll just take that masking tape off from that side, put it down there. Okay, at this stage I'm going to bring back that orange, and then this time I'm actually going to incorporate a little bit of the copper, the penny. But I'm going to continue to use the same sponge, just pick up the colours, blend them out. And then pick up some of that copper and then just add that a little bit over the top as well. Lightly go down there, pick up some more of that dark, look at that, beautiful kind of colours. Alright, so now we've got that kind of stenciling done, we can then start adding a little bit of light masking. Start building up the colours in the background. So you can actually start picking up some real kind of subtle tones, and if it means that you have to keep swapping your sponges over just so you've got, you know, different kind of effect. Start on and then start working your way off. So start on the mask and then just work off, and then just blend. If you get blobs, just blend them out. Just pick up and start doing your mottling. Just real kind of light strokes. Really don't have to be too literal when you're creating stuff like this. Pick up some red, some orange, bring that colour in, and then all the way around. It may disappear into the background, or it may not. The thing is just to have some fun with this, just blend as much as you want. Look at that. You can still see the leaf shapes all coming in without them being too kind of literal, if you know what I mean. So again, I could bring this one over here, lightly blend the colours around, and we get that kind of negative space image that's left behind. Subtle, but you still get it. And then you can swap it with all the different leaves and different orientations. Just kind of build up a nice subtle background. Because it's, you know, you're using different shades, different colours, different kind of strengths around the page. So I'm just using some sweeping motions now just to kind of move that paint around. And you still get those really nice kind of leafy patterns. So if I do another one down here, facing it over this direction, pick up a little bit more of that copper, a bit more red, blend it together. Because you're using the different colours, then they're going to stand out. And you can just tab or dab and blend those colours into your background. Look at that. Me likey lots. So again, let's pick up some of that copper, a bit of that red, whatever orange is left behind, and we'll do the kind of acorny leaf over here. Just light motions to pick up and diffuse the colour. I'm probably repeating myself, I've done it that many times on this project. It always helps just to kind of like reinforce what I'm doing. Just light strokes. Build up that background colour. Just build it up. Real quiet like. Love it, absolutely love it. Okay, so I need to get this kind of dry before I move on to do the next step. So out comes the heat gun, and I'll just, before hopefully that dries too much, just see if I can get a little bit of copper and just blend that bit out in the middle. You can see the shine on the page now. Okay, after looking at the page, I decided I wanted another leaf over at this side up here, and I think I'm going to go for this little leaf there. I'm going to do it at kind of like that diagonal kind of direction. Pull that masking tape off, and I want to do it in just a darker colour. Just needs a little bit of balance at this side. Grab that sponge again, and then I'm just going to start blending out those colours. And grab some red, a bit of copper, a little bit more red on this one. Work that into the sponge. There we go. Grab that copper, and then just right at the end, okay, let's try and take that off without damaging the page. Brilliant. I'm liking that. Okay, so I'm going to leave it just to dry on its own for a little bit. I need to have a cup of tea, so I'm going to go and make myself a quick drink while that's drying, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so that's pretty much had plenty of time to dry now, and I've drunk my cup of tea. So what I've done is I've also put, just on this piece of polyprop here, I've put some Dina Wakley Media Buff paint, which is off-white. It's not white, it's actually just off-white. I've also added some of the Dina Wakley Media Gilt, which is kind of like a gold colour, metallic gold, but I've also put a daub of the walnut stain down there at the bottom. And I've got some some water here in this little spritz bottle. And I'm just going to add some water just to that walnut stain, because I want to add some splatters around the page, just to give it a little bit of depth, and also just to kind of like diffuse it and soften it into that background. And then I'll just wash that off, dry it on some kitchen towel that I've just got to one side here, and in fact let's just grab a sheet, wipe off the walnut stain. I'm going to do the same thing with the gilt. So just add some water down there first and then bring the gilt into it. And then add gold splatters around the page, which will be picked out when you pick up and tilt the page. And I haven't dried this in between. So you've got two different tones of colour. So you've got that dark with the walnut stain, and then the lighter metallic effect of the gold. So I'll wash that off, clean that away, and then just quickly dry off my brush, get the water again, and then grab that buff and just mix that in. So this is a lighter colour, and I'm just going to go right the way across. There, that'll do. Not going to do any more, so I need to get that dried off, and then I'll join you again once it's done. Okay, so my page is now completely dry. All those splatters are now completely dry, and I love that kind of speckly diffused effect that you get from, you know, the leaves the way we've used as the masks and the ones through the stencil that we created. And I love this clock just being kind of hidden in the background with the leaves behind and one, you know, just coming up in front, just kind of giving you that impression that it is, you know, the turning of the year, the time is passing, and you've got those beautiful kind of autumnal fires falling from the trees. I don't want to spoil it by adding a phrase or a quote, or even, you know, any kind of other focal point than what it's already got. So I think I'm actually going to stop there. I'm not going to add a quote or a phrase or anything to it just yet. I might revisit this at a later stage and add one when I find a suitable one, but as yet I haven't found one that's going to add to it. In fact, if I add anything to this now, I think it may actually take it away. So all I'm actually going to do is right in the corner, I'm just going to sign my name and then put today's date, which is the 6th of November. And I am going to leave it at that. So I hope you've enjoyed watching that. If you have, please remember to give the video a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. Thank you.